Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pitt post-game show from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We're your Pitt beat writers, Chris Carter and Stephen Thompson. Stephen is there in Ford Field in a tunnel somewhere. He's just been covering one of the wildest Pitt games we have ever seen, and that's saying a lot considering the things that we've seen this year. Pitt ends up losing this one 48-46 in sextuple overtime. I had to look that up. I didn't know that was a word. But Stephen, give me just a quick synopsis of just you taking in this experience and what Pitt just went through.
Yeah, it was emotionally draining, I think, for everyone involved, really. Not just the fact that it was a marathon game. I think the longest bowl game in Pitt history. I think maybe the longest bowl game period, like in college football history. But, at the end of a 5-game losing streak, Pitt has to play the day after Christmas in a cold weather city, and they're doing it against a MAC team. And this game was chippy. There were fights and pushing and shoving and unsportsmanlike conducts all around. And at the end of it, you lose. That is a tough pill to swallow if you're on that side of it for Pitt. And I think everyone else in the press box just kind of at the end of that game could only appreciate how exhausting it was for everyone involved, fans, coaches, players, us in the media, how just long that was and how much was invested in it by both sides. And, I think you recognize the highs that Toledo is probably going through right now winning that game, but that Pitt locker room definitely they're hurting right now.
Understandably so. Let's get through, as usual, our good, bad, and our ugly. I'll start with my good. Julian Dugger really came through for Pitt in this game, despite the loss. And yes, he threw a pick six that was part of the comeback, the 10-point comeback that Pitt surrendered in the fourth quarter. But he finished 7 of 13 for 72 yards, 2 touchdown passes, also ran for a touchdown. And they scored. They got into the end zone in all 5 overtimes leading up to that 6th overtime. Pitt needed to get a stop at some point. I don't put that on him. I think Dugger provided the spark. He made some great decisions. He was athletic. He was tough. He was physical. He earned all the respect, I think, from every Pitt fan watching that game.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the story of the game for me. A guy who entered the season as Pitt's 5th-string quarterback, I think it's fair to say. And then all of a sudden he's called upon to try and help them, rally from a halftime deficit and end this 6-game losing streak. I thought he was outstanding. Obviously, the pick six is not good, but considering that this was the first game that he has ever played in college football, I thought he was really, really good. And what Pitt needed to operate that offense, much more athletic. He's a much better passer than I had ever given him credit for, especially at this stage in his career. So he was outstanding, and he was one of the biggest reasons that Pitt was back in this game.
The laser he threw to Poppy Williams in the end,
moving around, the way that he did in that pocket was pretty to see.
I mean, interesting stuff there, and I think it'll open up some questions for will he be a target in the portal after a game like that? But let's get to your good in this game.
Yeah, my good is the offensive line. I mean, this unit had been banged up, lost some guys, and gone through a ton of injuries. But with a little bit of continuity, I thought looked a lot better today. Both quarterbacks, Lynch and Dugger, I think for most of the game, had time to throw. Desmond Reid had holes to run through, and Joel Goff did too. I thought he played a good game as well. I think the offensive line was, a unit that had been maligned, and rightfully so. They hadn't played very well for a lot of this season, but I think they really did play pretty well in this game and did what they needed to do up front.
Agreed. I thought that they did a very good job for all the things they've gone up against this year. I thought that they did a solid job. Desmond Reid ran. Julian Dugger faced pressure, but I didn't think he was overwhelmed in this game. I do think they deserve respect there. Let's get to our bad in this game. My bad is the other quarterback in this game, David Lynch. He did throw a pick six as well, but he also threw another interception. And look, like I think when you're a freshman and you're working through it, everyone understands there's going to be challenges, right? But when Julian Dugger at least came in and made several other plays. David Lynch made some plays here and there, but they were few and far between. That last interception that basically benched him for the game was just inexcusable. He rolled right. There was a guy wide open, and he just threw a duck, and it was embarrassing. And again, walk on. no, there's no shame in he didn't. It's not that he came here with a bad effort or didn't try hard enough. He just wasn't good enough, and that's why he was my bad in this game.
Yeah, I think you can see why one of these quarterbacks is on scholarship and why the other was a walk-on. I think Lynch understood what he was doing out there. I think he knew where he was supposed to go with the ball. But like you said, the pick six and the decision to throw that second interception was not very good. And, there's some arm talent there, some difference there. Julian Dugger is just an athlete, and he's got a bigger arm than Lynch does. And I think at the end of the day, Dugger was a better fit for this offense, and there was maybe just a disparity in the amount of practice time that either guy had that really made the difference and led to Lynch starting over Dugger in this game.
What's your bad in this game?
Yeah, my bad's the pass defense as a whole, but specifically the corners. Junior Vander Ross went for 113 yards on 5 catches. Jerwan Newton, went for 78 yards. All told, just not a very good day for the Pitt passing defense. I thought they just weren't able to keep up with these Toledo's receivers who are really good, but you need your pass defense to be a little bit better, especially late in that game when the offense kept trying to score the defense. And even when the defense was getting stops, I thought it had more to do with the pressure that they were able to put on the quarterback, Tucker Gleason, and had less to do with the way that Pitt's pass defense played behind him.
I agree 1,000%. And in a secondary that largely I think played well this year, they had some really big goof ups in this game, missed opportunities. And Pitt's defensive backs, they were never too much for Junior Vander Ross in this game. But let's get to our uglies here. I'm going to start with my ugly, and it's some of the decision-making that Pitt had late in this game, particularly Pat Narduzzi, Kade Bell. I did not understand at regulation. They had the ball 4th and 9. Yes, you're around midfield. I know people are saying kick a 67-yard field goal. It would have been from that spot. My thought wasn't even that. You have the ball with about 30 seconds left. You have your timeouts. You can at least say, hey, let's run the ball down to 10 seconds. Try to get the first down, and if you get the first down, then you can kick the last field goal of the game. If you don't get it, they only have 5 seconds, 3 seconds to try to take their shot. So then you're not giving them a chance to score in that game. I thought that was bungled, but the thing that was the most unforgivable for me was I understood in the second overtime when Pitt held Toledo to a field goal, and all they needed was a touchdown to win the game, and it's 1st and goal, and I understand pounding it, and I understand 2nd and goal. Gavin Bartholomew, Wildcat, he's a big body. I got it. That made sense. But the trickeration of trying to use him to let him roll out and then throw of all people Isaiah Neal, and that's not a dig on either of them. You've had Julian Dugger and Desmond Reid eating in this game. Kenny Johnson's been balling in this game. Gavin Bartholomew as a receiver at that point would have made sense. Anybody. But you have your tight end throwing to a redshirt freshman defensive tackle for the game winner, and then know that you're going to kick a field goal if you don't get it and send it to the triple overtime where it goes into that back and forth where anything can happen. What were you thinking? And I'm, of course, not saying you. I'm saying that made absolutely no sense to me in this game. That was it. Just you went away from all your strengths in this game. And then I also think they should have gone for it on 4th and 1 because you had the strength, you had the power. Instead, you had to go back for it from the 4-yard line back and forth with that other team, and then you lost this game. And there's a lot of other things we could blame coaching with in this game. But to me, those decisions right there, Pitt tried to get cute, and it came back to bite them in the worst way.
Yeah, that was my problem. It was the definition of getting cute when your run game had been pretty effective all evening long. And I thought, on that play where Bartholomew's throwing to Neal, I thought you could have gotten the same effect as far as, diversion or trying to get Toledo's eyes looking up the middle because Julian Dugger is a big body and he adds a number in the run game. He could have pushed forward there. He gives you that option, but also he's a quarterback, and you could have had Gavin Bartholomew out there or anyone else leaking out to catch that pass and with some more sure hands than a defensive tackle. I'm with you. I understand what Pat Narduzzi said also about, not going for it on that fourth down in overtime. He felt like it would be taking the game out of his players' hands and putting it into his hands with a decision. He wanted to trust his players with that. But yeah, I don't know. I think when you're the underman team, I think it's something that you got to consider a little bit more. So, Narduzzi said he didn't regret any of his decisions in this game or any of the play calls. But I'm sure that one's going to, be in the back of his mind for a while.
Absolutely. What's your ugly from this game?
Yeah, my ugly is the conclusion of it. Losing 6 games in a row to cap your season. This is now a losing streak that spans almost 2 months. Pitt hasn't won a game since they beat Syracuse with those 3 pick sixes back in October. So the fact that you also lost to a MAC team in this last game, no one's going to, I think, remember the fact that you were on, whatever, your 5th quarterback and you had all these injuries and everything like that. I think all they're going to remember is the fact that, Pitt lost to Toledo. And that's the lasting image of this season is the 6-game losing streak. It's not beating West Virginia. It's not beating Cincinnati. Yep. It's not the 7-0 start. It's not the win over Syracuse, which actually looks better and better by the day. It's the 6-game losing streak. It's blowing that game against Clemson. It's not getting that 4th down stop against Virginia. It's the blowout loss at SMU when you had all the reason in the world to be competitive. So, you can break down into finer detail why Pitt lost those games, but at the end of the day, they started 7-0 and lost 6 in a row, and that's ugly.
That's super ugly. And again, it's a stain on this program when they were 7-0, even during that losing streak. The biggest thing was you were saying, hey, it's not 3-9. They showed that 3-9 is the bump in the road. Now, when you lose 6 games to end the season, and one of those games to a MAC team, now you open up all those doors again. And like you and I were talking about going into this week too, a big part of everything in college football is perception. It's about the image that you give to your players. And now players that fought and bled and sweat for you all season long and on that field in that game, this is the feeling that they get. And now they're going to look back and say like, hey, is this just what it's going to be? And it might not be. I'm not saying that they're doomed, that this Pitt's doomed to this in perpetuity of being like this, but you had a chance to be that, to show, hey guys, there's a lot more good things coming for us down the line. And it was a missed opportunity in this game and a missed opportunity with this season with a 7-0 start. That kind of defines the Pitt season as just coming up short and bungling major opportunities. Pitt blows a 10-point 4th quarter lead to send it to overtime, then allows 6 straight scores in overtime to send it for a loss there. That is just a hard one to stomach. We'll have a lot more on this as Pitt's transfer portal news continues. We'll see what else happens after this game and keep you up to date with all of that. And also, Pitt basketball is back on New Year's Day. Keep in touch with all of that by subscribing to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. From Chris Carter, Stephen Thompson, who's in Detroit. Thank you, Stephen, for covering for us on the day after Christmas. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you all for tuning into the Pitt Post-Game Show. We'll be back on your screen in your ears for the Pitt Mailbag Show later on Tuesday next week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all the sports coverage from the Post-Gazette that we have to offer, visit post-gazette.com.